Hello and welcome to the 2020 Global Fleet Conference. I hope you are doing well, and once more it's a pleasure to welcome you in our studio. Ladies and gentlemen, our industry has always been rather conservative, even though we have been seeing more and more initiatives over the past few years that are disruptive, show innovation and lead to new business successes. Going into the new normal, we are convinced that the willingness and courage to innovate and disrupt will become even more important than it was before. Welcome to our session, How to Make Fleet and Mobility Disruption Work for You. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome today David Shakery, Director Partnerships at What 3 Words, Stuart Mobility Donnelly, Senior Director Group International Sales at Sixt, and Alberto Falcione, Vice President Sales at Targa Telematics. Gentlemen, welcome. It's great you are joining our conference. And of course, we know that the pandemic has caused serious disruption in the automotive and fleet marketplace. Now, let's stay positive. Every crisis is also an opportunity to rethink business models, to innovate, and to think out of the box. I would like to start by asking, what is your solution to supporting fleet managers and their employees in using mobility more intelligently? And I would like to start with Alberto.
Yes, thanks, Steve. I represent here Targa Telematics, which is a company operating in the telematic industry, of course. So we are deeply involved in improving the mobility of corporates, in helping fleet management, in building new mobility way to serve the employees. We think that the COVID experience has strengthened the idea of keeping social distance, which is something which is impacting many aspects of our life, including mobility, of course. So what we see is that collective transportation for people is reducing, and the car is coming back as the main media for traveling, which is arising a point that is sustainability of having a lot of cars. So such a car-centric model must be sustainable for the employee, must be sustainable for the company, but must be sustainable also for the environment. Just think about congestion and pollution. So what Targa does in this space, we think that sharing is the opportunity to keep a car-centric mobility model sustainable.
Okay, thank you very much, Alberto. Next on my list is David. What 3 words? Can you briefly, let's say, elaborate, detail a bit what your solution is in supporting fleet managers?
Of course. Thanks very much. I'm David. I'm here with What 3 Words, and What 3 Words actually they took a very complicated problem and found an easy way. So what we did is we divided the world in 3-meter squares. We put a grid on top of the world, if you want so, and each of those 3-meter squares has a unique 3-word address, like filled count soap, and this is a specific place that only exists once. So filled count soap is the address of our office and is basically allocating to GPS coordinate, making a GPS coordinate speakable, shareable, and easy to communicate overall, because GPS coordinates are very precise, but are very long and complicated to communicate since it's 18 digits. And this way we basically have the 3 words, and you can pinpoint every place in the world. So use cases you have in especially with fleets is helping fleets like car sharing companies, station-based car sharing companies, pinpointing on parking locations. Just this week, Greenwheels, for example, did that. Or ride-hailing companies with bigger fleets that need to make sure to be very efficient so that customers can pinpoint the exact spot in front of a building, a specific door of a huge building where you have maybe 12 entrances. Think of downtown Manhattan, so that they don't have to drive around and look for the place. And those are 2 examples of what we're doing.
Okay, Thank you very much. You are, I think, David, and what three words? You are quite a young company. Is that correct?
That's correct. We were founded in 2013, and especially in the last 3 years, we've seen a lot of acceleration, a lot of usage. We started with more humanitarian work, and now we go more into mobility. We work with Cabify in Korea, for example, that are quite ride-hailing companies. We work with Easy Taxi. We are implemented in Daimler vehicles, in Ford vehicles, and now also recently in Tata vehicles in the navigation system. So especially in the last couple of years, a lot of things happened, and we're able to kind of get more and more traction worldwide.
Okay, thank you very much. A company that is a little bit older, let's say in terms of years, not in terms of spirit, is Sixt, Stuart Mobility Donnelly. Can you briefly tell us what Sixt is about and what is, let's say, for you the main solution that you can give to fleet managers today?
Stephen, greetings. Nice to see you. Thanks for inviting me. Yes, Stuart Mobility Donnelly of Sixt, responsible for group corporate sales worldwide. Our mix, I guess, of products that we offer to the market, which is car rental, share, which is comprising of both car as well as bike and scooter, and rides, which comprises of both on-demand ride-hailing and ride transfer. So I think in terms of what we are doing to support fleet managers and their employees during these times is that we have that breadth of products that are available. And actually right now we're seeing strong demand basically for rentals, both for car eligible employees that ordinarily might have a company car. The car is due to be returned, and they can't access new vehicles due to the shortage of supply due to production. Or obviously the oversupply of used cars in the marketplace. So car eligible on the one side, but also non-car eligible employees that need to get back to work, maybe get back to the workplace, but ordinarily may use public transport, and due to the challenges with social distancing, they're seeking for an alternative which we can provide in terms of car rentals. And actually we're seeing at the moment, like I said, a strong demand for people to rent cars, both consumers and corporates, for 3, 6, 12 months at a time. I guess the other aspect, and probably more importantly, is the safety pledge that we place with our customers, which is firstly to keep our network open during these times, to make sure that we are available when you need us most, but also the hygiene measures, cleaning standards that we've implemented, as well as making our service available contactless, so our Sixt Fast Lane proposition. And then in terms of booking conditions, we've also become far more flexible in that situation.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Stuart. And next question is for Alberto. Alberto, Targa Telematics has been evolving from a telematics company to a value tech company. On your website, we read creation of value with the Internet of Cars. Can you briefly explain what you mean and what value do you mean?
Yeah, of course. Let me say that we think that technology is useless if it's not able to bring value, to deliver value to the customers. So using technology to deliver value is our main goal when we go into the market. What we see is that telematics technology can deliver value on different levels. Just to give you, for example, core processes can be improved through telematics on corporate fleets. Just imagine corporate fleets working with cars, so delivery, utility, multi-utility, facility management. They have clear benefits in having the possibility to manage the vehicles in real time and through analytics. But telematics is also improving the no-core processes. So maintenance, car maintenance, for example, processes like claims management, or for cost monitoring, fuel cost control, toll cost control, all of these. Telematics is also helpful for planning. So a fleet manager can plan the fleet composition, how many EV, how many hybrid, how many diesel vehicles according to the usage. But he can also plan the fleet size. And last but not least, we see that the fleet manager role is evolving into a real architect of the corporate mobility. So it's not just about deciding which vehicles to buy or to lease and how many vehicles to buy or to lease. It's also about mixing in the proper way different mobility products.
Thank you. David, what is the most creative application of your mapping solution that you have heard about?
For me, probably the most creative one is the one that saves lives every day. There was some time about 1.5 to 2 years ago where the London police approached us, and because someone actually mentioned a three-word address when he called 911. And we didn't really have this on our radar. And they told this to other police station and control rooms around for the fire department, everything. And we started to kind of train them on how to use what three words and how to basically pinpoint where people are in need. So think of an accident in the middle of the road. Think of a hiker that has an injury somewhere. And now basically in the UK, more than 85% of control rooms are enabled, meaning that if you call to the 911 number and you say, I'm at Filled Count Soap or Banana Apple Spoon, they will be able to find you and send a helicopter, send a police or whatever is needed in this case. And actually just 2 weeks ago, there was an injured hiker in Tasmania, Australia, that was having, an injury somewhere in a remote place. And she was, being rescued with the help of what three words, because she was able to give her three-word address. And every time that I see such news, it kind of makes me happy that even though the use case was not thought about in a first place, it's something that really helps people every day, and that's great.
Okay, thank you. Stuart, the pandemic, of course, has caused some obstacles. Now, companies like Viavan, for example, are working with public transport authorities to supplement and extend existing public transport and multimodal networks. Is that a direction Sixt also wants to move in, even that that, for example, it could take some time before that people get back into public transport, etc.?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Stephen. In fact, we are also working on the integration of public transport into our app. But ultimately, the pandemic came along, and we reprioritized our activities in order to focus on what our customers' needs were. So instead of focusing on integrating public transport for the obvious reasons, we focused on spreading out our share proposition in the Netherlands, where we have almost 1,000 fully electric cars on the road across the major cities, and that obviously helps to provide an alternative in these times. And we've also launched Sixt Plus, which is a car subscription proposition, which has the look and feel of a lease, but effectively is a low cost and highly flexible alternative to that, which again in these current times is a critical solution to meet demand in terms of the economic uncertainty that we're faced with, but also the behavioural changes that are inevitable as a result of many of us being forced to work from home the last months. I think the fact that we've done that in these times and launched such products is quite remarkable. So I'm very proud of the company and the people that have done that. But inevitably, demand for public transport will return because it's a critical piece of inner city mobility. It's a great substitute for car ownership, as I've been advocating, and I haven't changed that that message. But right now, due to the demands for social distancing, it's maybe not as critical as the provision of cars.
Very good. Alberto, you of course have heard it already here. More and more companies offering solutions and technology in mobility. How do you see the role of Targa Telematics in this new mobility world?
Yes, thank you for the question. That's a very common question our customers are asking us. Basically, it is true there are a lot of telematics operators into the market, but it is also true that the market is very wide and it is segmented quite clearly, I would say. So Target Telematics is working in the segment of the market serving large, medium, large organization and very large corporates. So our role is needs to match with this customer target that we are addressing. So Targa is a technology enabler, which a clear goal, build solutions around an open mobility platform that allows, as I was saying before, a corporate to redesign the mobility, orchestrating a partner, a systems of a partner, the partners of the ecosystem, which are providing a seamless experience to the driver.
You already work also with car manufacturers. I think that recently you signed a collaboration with the FCA group. Can you just briefly tell us what that is about?
Yes. Our platform is hardware agnostic. Okay. So we work with different black boxes and with OEM's data stream. So FCA is an example of car manufacturers which has invested a lot in building a connected car. And we are basically leveraging the value of this investment, building products and services that can monetize the connected car. So in the specific cooperation that was announced in the last press release, we are basically announcing that we built a fleet management solution based on the OEM data stream coming from FCA.
Okay. David, is it fair to say that the What Three Words service needs integration in a solution like, for example, Google Maps for its big breakthrough? And how close are you to that becoming a reality? Or is it not true at all?
So well, we want to be a global standard. So yes, eventually we want to be in every mapping app like Google Maps, just like we want to be in also every ride-hailing app or in every car navigation system. So the idea is to basically build that global standard and make it normal so that people would just ask to say, hey, let's meet at Apple Banana Spoon. So today, yes, people, when they want to use navigation, they would go into our app, press the navigation button, and then they would be redirected to any navigation app that they prefer, if this is Google, Apple, whatever. So this can still do this today.
Okay. Another question that we have for you is, will you ever allow personalized What Three Words addresses so that your customers can choose, for example, the things that are still free and build together the ideal three-word combination?
Well, this is a very common question we're getting very often. And the short answer is no. And I'm happy to give you the reason for this. So the combination of three words that we have allocated, they seem to be random, and they are somewhat random, but also there is a specific reason why they are the way they are. So the combinations, for example, they're not hierarchical, meaning in a normal world, if you are navigating a car to 15 Church Road, the navigation system might understand 50 Church Road, and you might not even see that you are making a mistake until you're there, and then you're like, 500 meters apart, and you're like, okay, what do I have to do now? I have a meeting, and then you're calling up, and you're all stressed. So we purposely don't have this hierarchy, meaning that words that are very similar are apart on purpose. As an example, Go's Sports Towns is a place on the Wall Street in New York. Now, if I, by mistake, say Go Sport, so I forgot the S, and then Towns, this is somewhere south of Manchester in the UK. So if I was somewhere in New York telling my car go sport towns, even though that's the one in Manchester, it would automatically auto-suggest me the one on Wall Street that is closer and that's on the same continent. So that is the main reason why we're not allowing personalized word-for-word addresses, because that would mean that people, would say next to the Eiffel Tower, it's Eiffel Tower, house, tree, and then the next one would do the same thing, and you would have the same problem as with regular addresses. So no, we're not doing this, and there is a reason for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, this crisis could be an obstacle for plug-and-play initiatives, for pilots, and for investments in new technology. So let's find out how our experts are dealing with technology in the new normal. Stuart, Sixt has always been at the forefront of innovation. You mentioned yourself that you have been launching quite some new initiatives in mobility, but you can't deny that the pandemic has impacted your business and your revenue stream. What can you say about your company and the investments in new technology innovation going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very valid point that, that naturally a significant chunk of our business comes from business travel and leisure and tourism. And obviously, globally, that market has dried up the last months. But fortunately, we also serve the truck business, van business, where we see extremely strong demand right now from that area. We also see strong demand, as I mentioned earlier, from consumers and corporates as an alternative to move around, and the fleet business. We see strong demand as well. So, yeah, we're suffering like the entire travel industry, but we were already in a very strong position before the crisis financially, and if there was ever a reason to justify the sale of our leasing business before the crisis, then this is it, because effectively that that income will be used directly to reinvest in new products and services, new innovative ideas to disrupt the market. And what better evidence of that than the fact that we've spread out our share business into the Netherlands and launched that during a pandemic, and launching Sixt Plus, both of which you can see in the Sixt app, which I think is quite remarkable. So yeah, no, I think a very, very encouraging outlook for us, and we will continue those innovations, like I mentioned, in terms of developing the public transport capability within our app, the MaaS proposition that we're continuing to develop. So watch this space.
Thank you for the positive news. Alberto, we're all talking about connectivity and digitalization of international fleet management. But how can you keep control in this digitized ecosystem, and how can you guarantee data security?
Yeah, this is definitely a very important point, because when I was talking about open mobility platform, you can see that there are many stakeholders exchanging data flow. So data management and cybersecurity are very important, especially for us that we are serving large customers. Just imagine a car maker's is caring a lot about cybersecurity, but also leasing company and car rentals, of course. So cybersecurity is one of our major investments, as we have to provide state-of-the-art solutions. All the solution is secure by design at any level. I mean, we have the black box level when it's provided by us, which is secured by some specific encryption on the box. Then we have to secure the communication channel through a private APN over IPsec. Then we have to secure the server and even the operational procedure. By the way, there are not very clear standards including all the stack. So at the end, our customers are requesting periodic penetration tests, which are run by third parties and which are assessing every 2-3 months the cybersecurity level of all the stack. And of course, such outputs are shared with our customers together with the investments we do to make the solution cyber secured.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Alberto. David, your technology seems to come at the right time, as exact location identification will become crucial probably for emergency services, postal and delivery services, but also an efficient tracing of infected people and their contacts. So what is your answer to that, and how do you see that?
Well, we spoke about emergency service before, so this is something that is independent of the current situation. That's always useful. Same goes for postal delivery services. I mean, actually, there was just a test that was published recently, a pilot that was done between DPD and Mercedes-Benz, where Mercedes-Benz vans have already the technology integrated. DPD used that and compared how well do they compare. We have one driver using regular addresses, we have another driver using what 3 words, and you see that there is an efficiency gain of 15%. And operational excellence is nothing that is only linked to pandemics. It's obviously something we want to thrive for at all times, which we're helping. And I mean, there's other examples. There's AO.com, the appliance company from the UK, that announced in the middle of the crisis that they will go from a small pilot in one region in the UK nationwide to help basically, especially their drivers also, not to carry a big fridge for 50 meters, but make sure that customers are pinpointed to the right location so that, drivers don't have to walk that far. So yes, in a sense, that comes up during pandemics, but at the same time, it's something that this operational excellence you want to do regardless of the situation.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we all want smart mobility. We all want efficient, easily accessible, emission-friendly and cost-efficient mobility, but the road seems sometimes long and winding. Stuart, you even included the word mobility in your signature. Why? And what does mobility mean to you?
Stuart Mobility, yeah, that's certainly a name that has stuck. It was actually part of a speech that I did where I talked about in a previous life. I was pretty much well known as being Stuart Multi-Bid Donnelly, and but because of the fact that I'm hearing a lot of demand from people for that magic M word, mobility, and no one was really doing anything about it, I thought, hey, I'll change my name and see how that will help to promote it. And from a social media perspective, it's certainly stuck. And I'm delighted for that, to be honest, because whilst, it is a bit of humour on the one hand, I am a very big advocate for the topic of mobility and mobility as a service. The natural things that we need to address, which have become evident from this crisis are, carbon emissions, congestion, both of which obviously we haven't suffered from during the pandemic when everyone's been stuck at home. But for me, I mean, mobility as a service is, if I look at it, I think I always considered it as being the fully integrated multimodal mobility solution, which incorporates car sharing, car rental, bike, scooter sharing, ride hailing, taxi, public transport, and delivered digitally. But obviously, my expectations and wishes are somewhat tempered by the technical possibilities. The reality is very different, as Mars has different varieties, just like fleet management. Yet far more complex and fragmented, a multitude of operators across all modalities and different geographies. There are integrators, there are apps, payment cards, resellers, back office, payroll, tax applications, all providing very different versions of mobility. But for now, it's a maturing landscape, very much like we've seen in fleet the last 2 decades. And I think we need to start with baby steps, and people need to start exploring Mars. Don't try to go from 0 to 100 in one step.
Combining mobility and innovation. David, how can disruption accelerate mobility efficiency coming out of the crisis and into the new normal?
Well, as mentioned before, it's all about excelling in operations, especially with fleets. So you want to make sure that it's in the little percentage points where you're improving. I've been working with a car sharing company before. It's a marginal business. So if you're not excelling at operations, you're going to lose the game. And we've seen a lot of companies, specifically because of the crisis, that didn't manage that and went burst. And that shows how important this is. So we're trying our best to basically help and support companies to reach those extra points in efficiency gain. So as the example I mentioned before with DPD, helping basically car sharing companies show where they have to go, ride-hailing companies not having to drive around. I mean, every minute counts, when they're driving around not finding somebody or not being able to drop off somebody. So basically, we're trying to build this whole ecosystem around in different verticals so that basically everyone can use What Three Words everywhere, and then everyone can kind of have advantages from this. So think of tourist spots where you want to go that have three-word addresses, campsites, museums and stadiums. For accessibility, that's super important. I mean, you and me might know where to go up the stairs, but then you need to have also barrier-free entrances. How do you get people there? So again, from ride-hailing to navigation all the way to tourist spots, everything is important in this ecosystem to make sure that you can excel in the operational part.
Okay. Alberto, one of the most promising mobility modes is car sharing. We already discussed it briefly, Stuart mentioned it, but you can't say that it's already well embedded in our corporate environment, and there might even be some reluctance at this moment towards car sharing. Can you explain a little bit, as you are also working, let's say, with car sharing providers, your technology is used for car sharing, how can you make this happen? How can you make this profitable?
Yes, I totally agree with you. It's a very promising mobility product, but it's not massively used by corporates. Even if we have to say that the situation looking back 2 years ago is totally different. There are a lot of companies already adopting this, but the penetration is still very, very, very low. The point is that corporate car sharing is about changing the habits of mobility for employees and even for corporates. So the point is that organizations and people are usually resisting to any change of habits, we know, unless you are able to demonstrate a clear advantage coming from this changing. So I think we have to work on this. And we have to work on the driver experience and on the company needs. Driver experience means that you have to design and to deliver a product easy to use, very robust for a technology perspective, and you need to provide the employee several mobility options. I mean, car sharing has to enrich the options of mobility. It must not reduce such options. And on the company side, you need to set up a sustainable mobility product. So that means that you need to facilitate all the operations like maintenance, like cleaning, like refueling. And on the other hand, you need to maximize the usage of the shared fleet, because this is what is important, maybe to reduce the size of the fleet, so save money on the cars, and to provide additional mobility option for the employees.
Okay.
Well, this is done analyzing the data coming from the usage. So data are leading macro optimization of the corporate car sharing systems, giving very clear information about how you can organize such system to make it profitable and really useful for the employees. This is the key, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Stuart, several corporate mobility providers are promoting flexible mobility as a solution to overcome the economic difficulties presented by the pandemic. But how exactly does flexibility benefit customers, and doesn't this depend also on the type of flexibility?
Yeah, I think the three buzzwords this year, alongside pandemic and unprecedented, will be flexibility, as the inevitable financial effects of COVID-19 will certainly be felt in the months and year to come, as we come out the other side, and companies will have to pick up once more the tab from the governments who have been funding on furlough schemes, part-time schemes. The employees, sadly, we're already starting to read about it. Before we're even through the other side of the pandemic, there will be unprecedented. There's the word again. Job cuts, and some winners, some losers financially, but the net effect is, unfortunately, there's a lot of uncertainty financially, and with that, companies clearly don't want to invest in fixed assets. They want to variabilize their costs, and so the concept of flexibility, I think, is critical. And we are seeing already strong demand from companies, especially who are not keen on investing in long-term arrangements, and instead want something far more flexible. And we're able to offer that, with our long-term rentals, with our 6-flat product, which serves those needs. The other aspect, which is critically, again, uncertain, is the behavioural changes which will survive the lockdown, and how many people will continue to work from home, and not commute any longer. The cost impact, personally, the improved productivity that we see from actually working from home, I think is quite exceptional.
Which types of new mobility solutions are most likely to be included, let's say, in the corporate fleet offer?
Yeah, pretty simple one, to be honest, Stephen. The offer is basically going to be focused around rent, ride, share, and public transport, I think, and packaged in different subscription packages, where you can buy, pretty much like mobile phones, where you can buy a subscription for calls in terms of minutes and data. It'll be the same topic, I think, and that's what we've always anticipated, and that's why we've invested significantly in that area. That the alternative to car ownership, whether it's a consumer or a corporate, is a new multimodal world where people have more freedom to rent a car, either by the minute, which is sharing, by the day or longer. Maybe you rent for 10 days a month, and then the other days you might be working at home. You might need some of it for business, some of it for private, but you might also supplement with car sharing, bike, scooter sharing, taxi, and public transport. The acceleration of that will obviously depend greatly on the recovery from the pandemic, but I strongly believe that a lease is a subscription, really, right? It's just for 4 years. Coming back to the previous topic about flexibility, this is the way to proceed, I think.
Okay, gentlemen, in a final topic, we would like a little bit to discuss the future, and also the way that we need to be prepared, and also you need to be prepared. I would like to start with Alberto. Alberto, if we are going to focus more and more on, let's say, employee well-being, working from home, how can your business, because you mentioned it yourself, it's related to, let's say, the car, to mobility, how can your business stay successful and relevant?
Well, I think that somehow, even if people are working a lot from home, they need to move. I mean, I don't think that if they work from home, they will switch off their social life. So I think people will always need to move. Of course, the big point is helping people in moving better. I agree with the two colleagues that were speaking before. I think that the model will switch from car-centric to user-centric. Mobility is becoming more and more flexible. Probably the mobility we have now is not sustainable for the future. So technology and mobility operators will be the real players of the future mobility. Again, I think that in any changing like the ones we are living now, technology have always played a very important role, not only in mobility, but I would say in many aspects of our life.
Okay. David, what should we, as an industry, learn from the crisis to be better prepared for a second wave or a new crisis in the upcoming years?
Well, I think it's very simple. I mean, we shouldn't wait for tomorrow to act. I mean, we were really hit badly because nobody was expecting something like this. Now we have experienced it. I think we just have to, again, be prepared, know what could come if there's a second wave, or if, in 1 or 2 years there's something else coming, who knows? So it's about acting now, making today sure that you do everything to be on that operational excellence, and kind of that will be then separating the wheat from the chaff eventually. So that's kind of like my 2 cents to this.
Okay. And Stuart, also for you, a question around the future. If there is one tip that you can give to corporate fleet managers, and you know quite a lot of them, in terms of what they should do?
Well, I think the main topic really is to give yourself choices, and to enable you to make choices. You need to be agile, and therefore you need to have the tools in your toolbox to be agile. And therefore, I think that magic F word, flexibility, alongside the topic of mobility, I think is key. And I think you need to give yourself those options. Clearly, that's what we're trying to help people to do, provide more more flexibility. But I think you certainly need to give yourself more flexibility by variabilizing your fixed costs, and there are many options that leaves open to you. Number one, it obviously allows you to reduce your fleet if it's necessary. B, it enables your employees to think, choose differently, and C, I think the great thing is with creating more flexibility is that it enables people to dip their toe in the water. But the critical thing is that people need to explore different things and really not think and do how we did in the past, because we're now facing that topic. We are in a new normal. Thanks.
Okay. Gentlemen, we have come to the end of this panel discussion. It was a pleasure having you, and I'm sure our audience now has a better understanding of what they can expect regarding mobility disruption in the new normal. Thank you very much, Alberto Falcioni of Targa Telematics, Stuart Donnelly of Sixt, and David Shakery of What 3 Words. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to rate this session and give also your feedback in our event app on Attendify, where you can also see what's on our agenda for the upcoming week. It was really a pleasure being your moderator, and I wish you a safe and disruptive global fleet journey. Bye-bye.